That's okay. Welcome back. Thanks for doing our networking activity. Hopefully you found that to be useful. I think it's always nice to just connect with folks. One of the benefits of when these were in person was spending some time and connecting with folks, and with them all virtual, it's great to have people from all across the state be able to be in the same virtual space together. So we want to take advantage of that. We're going to run over some rules really quickly again in the agenda, and then we'll kind of get started. If you have questions during our presentations today, please put those in the chat box. If it's possible to leave your camera on and listen along, that would be great, but we do want to make sure that you're muted during our presentations. And there will be an opportunity at the end to run through those questions that you might have. I don't know if I missed anything else. Amber will correct me, I'm sure. We'll have information in the chat box for you as well as we move through our presentation today. And we're going to get started with Gwen Smith, our Criminal Justice Policy Manager, who's going to talk about our criminal legal priorities for the 2024 session.
Thanks, Sarah. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us for our last Friday Forum of the year. I don't have slide advancing, so I'll just give a thumbs up when I'm ready for the next slide. You can go to the awesome. So our first criminal legal priority this year is going to be probably familiar to a lot of you guys. We talked about Clean Slate a ton last year. We are refiling Clean Slate legislation in both chambers again. And so Clean Slate is a term that is referring to the automation of the expungement process. So here in Missouri, we have over 500,000 people that have a criminal record that would qualify for expungement. So it would be able to be sealed from their record. Less than 1% of Missourians who qualify for record sealing and who meet the current qualifications have actually been able to access that. So clearly it's not working as intended, excuse me, not having the intent that lawmakers had in mind when they originally passed expungement legislation some years back that really opened up the process to a lot of other types of offenses. So this year we have two bills that have already been filed, both in the Senate. Senator Curtis Trent carried Clean Slate for us last year and has refiled with Senate Bill 1161. And Senator Brian Williams, who has worked on expungement issues for a long time, is joining the Clean Slate fight this year and has filed Senate Bill 763. This year, we're hoping to move it further, make it a bigger priority in both chambers. We did have a hearing in the House last year. We're hoping to have hearings in both chambers this year. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing a lot more about Clean Slate from us as session goes on. I can go to the next slide. And also just a quick plug, if anyone would like to learn more about Clean Slate or how their organization can be involved in the Clean Slate campaign, please connect with me. I will put my email in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. The next priority is to introduce correctional oversight legislation. This is legislation that would create a system of accountability for the Department of Corrections. We have a potential House sponsor. I'm not sure if it is going to pan out with him, but we are still approaching other Republicans. Senator Angela Mosley has filed some oversight legislation already, and I'm sorry I don't have the bill number here for you. I just saw that earlier today. So we'll be excited to talk about the legislation that she's filed, but we're also really hopeful to get a Republican to file this so we can talk about it more and hopefully continue to educate lawmakers on this issue. Something that people don't know a whole lot about, the idea of correctional oversight, but it is very, very needed. In Missouri, we have paid hundreds of millions of dollars from taxpayers to pay out DOC lawsuits. Most of these lawsuits have been brought by correctional officers against treatment that they received from other staff. And so accountability, transparency in the correction system is something that wouldn't just benefit people that are incarcerated there and living there and their family members, but also everybody that works in prisons. It's about trying to make our prisons safer, more transparent, and accountable when wrongdoing occurs. We can go to the next slide. We are going to bring some legislation around private probation. I was just having a chat with someone on this campaign this morning and getting an update. So I think Representative Alex Riley is going to be refiling his legislation from last year that would ban the use of drug testing for non-drug related offenses for folks on probation and reduce the maximum of amount of time that someone can be on misdemeanor probation to 2 years. So private probation is something that Missouri is one of really only a handful of states that utilizes this practice. Another term that it sometimes gets referred by is offender-funded probation. And the idea is that the county or the state is not paying anything for these probation services. They're being offered by private companies, and all of the costs go directly to the person that is on supervision and is only used for misdemeanor crimes. And the upshot of it is that folks end up paying a lot of money or being fined a lot of money that maybe they can't pay to be in compliance with their probation. Because on top of a monthly probation supervision fee, there's also, anger management, parenting classes, drug testing, even if they didn't have a drug charge. All of those things can be kind of levied on the individual on supervision. So we're going to continue to do a lot of education around this issue. We have been doing a lot of research into this. We have a researcher that's been going into a couple counties, doing court observation, interviewing judges, interviewing private probation company workers, and interviewing folks that are on private probation themselves. And really hope that we get an opportunity this session to share some of what we've been hearing with lawmakers, and hopefully have some of those individuals share it directly from their experiences at a hearing. You can go to the next slide. Geriatric parole legislation is being brought by Senator Brian Williams. It has not been filed yet, but I know that this is one that he definitely intends to file in the next week or so. We are hoping to create a process for geriatric parole. We know that the group of people in Missouri prisons that are ages 55 and older is advancing rapidly, growing rapidly at a rate that's 11 times higher than the growth of the rest of the prison population. And the biggest reason for this is that folks that were sentenced in the 80s and 90s and still serving very lengthy sentences, because we know that that was the tough on crime era that kind of created a lot of the policies that continue to support mass incarceration. A lot of those folks are aging in their sentences, and currently there's no pathway for them to be released from prison. Some for the remainder of their natural lives, and some, until they're very elderly. And so we would really like to see some different pathways opened up for folks in prison that have served the majority of their sentence, that have served a lot of time, and that we know once folks are in this older age bracket, the likelihood that they're going to recidivate or that they're going to go on to commit any kind of violent offenses when they're released becomes much, much lower. It's also a big strain on the prison system to provide healthcare to folks that are aging in prison. A lot of times the care goes on to other incarcerated individuals. So there's a lot of reasons that we believe that we should be smart about geriatric parole. And we can go to the next slide. So please, if you're not already connected with our Community Justice Coalition, I'd really encourage you to get connected and sign up so you'll receive our emails. Our last meeting of the year is going to be on Thursday, December 21st at 10. And we're going to have 2 guest speakers. Colleen Cunningham from Equal Justice USA is going to be doing a presentation on community alternatives to incarceration. And then Alex Earls with the Department of Corrections is going to be talking about their Reentry 2030 initiative. That's a federal initiative that Missouri was the first state to sign on to. That is around the state making a lot of commitments to certain reentry outcomes by 2030. So if you're interested in any of that, please come to our last meeting of the year prepared with some questions for Alex. I know that he's really looking forward to speaking to the coalition and telling us what DOC has been doing around Reentry 2030. Starting in January and continuing through May, we'll be doing our session schedule. So we'll be meeting twice a month. We'll be meeting on the second Thursday of every month at 10 and then the fourth Thursday at 5 p.m. So hope that you can join us for some meetings during session. Again, I'll drop the link in the chat to sign up for our coalition and share my email. So if you're interested in any of these policy priorities or just want to chat about criminal legal issues in general, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Gwen. All of our staff is going to stay on. We'll do questions like at the very end for everything. That makes the most sense to me, so we don't get too far off track on time-wise. Up next, we're going to have Christine Woody, our excellent food security policy manager, talk about our food security priorities.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone. The first slide that I'm going to talk about fits really well with what Gwen has talked about. This is the one kind of piece of legislation that fits really nicely with our Criminal Justice Coalition, as well as our Food Security Coalition. We've been working on this issue for many, many years. Last year, it got, I say, rather close, but didn't quite make it over the finish line. So here we are yet again working on it in 2024. This is working towards passing a bill that would opt Missouri out of an optional federal law that allows for a lifetime ban on SNAP for anyone that has a drug-related felony. So this is the only conviction or record that comes with this lifetime ban. And it's an optional provision that states can decide to follow or not follow. Missouri is one of the states that has decided to continue to follow that lifetime ban, and we are working to try to completely opt out of it. So we have a different plan this year compared to what we tried to do last year. Again, it's going to be within a larger piece of legislation that we're trying to push through. The larger piece of legislation this year is going to really focus on not only nutrition access, but a lot of other provisions related to women who are pregnant, who are currently in the Department of Corrections or in city or county jails. So the overarching language talks about making sure that at all possible, no shackles, making sure that the nutrition that women receive who are pregnant in the department is adequate with the right nutrition that they need for themselves and their unborn child. Addition to any sorts of examinations or any other medical needs that they have, that they are happening on the right schedule and with a female in the room when any of those examinations are happening. In that piece of legislation, they also include this provision that would opt Missouri out of this drug felony ban. So it's kind of a whole group piece of legislation kind of connected with the same overarching theme. So far we have Representative Chad Perkins. He is a member of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. He has filed this language in its House Bill 1777. I'm saying lucky seven, so hopefully we'll get it through this time. On the Senate side, we have worked really closely with Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman on this bill for a couple of years, and she is again filing it for us in the Senate. During conversations with her over the last couple months, she had recommended seeing if Senator Lauren Arthur, who is a Democrat in the Senate, file the exact same language. So both of them will be filing this language. Senator Coleman really thought it would be good to have someone kind of on both sides of the aisle pushing for the same thing. So we have folks on both sides of the aisles really pushing for this year as sponsors. So I am optimistic that we can get this through this year. So the senator bills have not been filed yet as of yesterday when I last looked. But once they're pre-filed, we will have that added to the food security bill tracker. The next one we have also been working on for the last few years. This would implement what is called a restaurant meals program. It is a provision or a program underneath the SNAP program, which is what's now called the food stamps program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Within that federal program, there are certain waivers or certain changes that states can decide to make. The restaurant meals program is one of those waivers that can be asked for and implemented state by state. If Missouri asks for this waiver, they would allow individuals who are SNAP recipients, who are elderly, disabled, or homeless to be able to use their SNAP benefits to purchase hot prepared meals at certain restaurants. Currently now, if you are on SNAP, you could only purchase cold, unprepared food from grocery stores and convenience stores. This would expand that for this population specifically, who many times have a difficult time preparing food, cooking food, storing food if you're homeless. This could really help that population if we can get this passed. So our plan for 2024 for that bill, Senator Angela Moseley, she again is filing the bill for us in the Senate. She has filed that bill, and it's Senate Bill 973. In the House, again, we are having Representative Travis Smith file that bill. As of yesterday, he had not pre-filed it yet, but again, once he does and we have that bill number, we will add that to the tracker. This bill, like the other, we're grateful for the fact that we have bipartisan support in both chambers, which, as most of you probably know, really does help moving bills forward in the process. This one is a little bit different. This is really talking about some work in the appropriations process or the budget process. There is a program called Double Up Food Bucks, which is a federal program that provides additional money for individuals who are on SNAP to purchase locally grown fruits and vegetables. The way that this program works coming down from the federal level is that the federal level covers 50% of the cost of the program. The states who want to implement it need to have 50% matching funds to cover it. 2024 is a time to re-up that grant. The original grant, when it was funded, private funds covered that matching grant in Missouri and Kansas. This is kind of actually a by-state program. But moving forward, I think the program administrators and the folks who are working on that program would like to go to the state to see if they could put some of that 50% match into the program. There's a lot of folks working on this, including the Missouri Grocers Association, other grocery stores, and other program farmers markets. But we're going to be able to provide support when we can during that appropriations and budget process to see if we can get some money into Missouri's budget that can go to offset that 50% match. And then the last one is working to increase access to free school meals for Missouri students. The goal of this year is really to begin to educate our legislators about the importance of healthy school meals. Currently, on the federal level, if you are a student at 130% of the federal poverty and below, you qualify for a free school meal. There's a category called reduced price school meals, which decreases the cost that families have to pay, and that's for families up to 185% of the federal poverty level. Quite a few states have now gone to the model where they cover that reduced price cost for those students, allowing any student up to 185% of the federal poverty level to qualify for a free school meal. And that's something that we think could really be beneficial in Missouri. So this year, Senator Angela Moseley is filing that bill for us, stating that they would cover up to 185% of federal poverty. It's Senate Bill 1154. At this point, we don't have a member of the House who is going to be filing it for us. So we really are going to spend a lot of time this legislative session just educating about the program, about the importance of healthy school meals, in the hopes of securing a House sponsor for 2025. So we don't really have much hope for Senate Bill 1154 to pass both chambers to get signed by the governor. It's really just going to be used as an educational tool to move that forward in the coming years. And then finally is just to reiterate, we would love for you to join the Food Security Coalition if you are interested in any one of these topics. We actually had our December meeting this morning, so our next one won't be until January. It's going to be the second and fourth Fridays of the month at 9 o'clock in the morning. So our next one will be Friday, January 12th at 9 a.m.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine. That's a great opportunity for people who care about nutrition access and our morning people. So it's a double whammy. Very good. V and Misha, I am not sure which one of you is going first. Looks like it's going to be Misha. For those of you who have not had the opportunity yet to interact with Misha, they are our new affordable housing policy manager. And of course, we've had V on staff for a couple of years now, so we're excited to see what they'll be working on this session.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm brand new, but jumping right in. And so one of my focus areas right now is the statewide land bank legislation. And last year, Representative Bill Owens did introduce the bill HB 587, but it didn't make it all the way. And so he has reintroduced it this year. And so we are really supporting that and hoping that it gets across, because currently with the affordable housing shortage that we're having in Missouri right now, we have a lot of these vacant properties that are not being used. And we want to be able to simplify the process by passing the statewide land bank legislation to get these properties back on tax rolls, which is a source of revenue, but also to create more affordable housing. But also by having the statewide land bank legislation so that communities can set this up, they can determine what it looks like for them. So it's not one size fits all. And then it also simplifies the process, because I know St. Louis and Kansas City have received some pushback that their process was too difficult and there wasn't a lot of transparency. And so HB 587 is hoping to fix that by making it more transparent. And by also having it go through the courts, we would have a simpler process, because it wouldn't have the issue where the title's not clean, which can cause a delay of getting the funding and getting these properties turned into affordable housing. And so we're really hopeful on this one, and we'll be sharing a lot of information. And I'm ready for the next one. And then the other one, Senator Lauren Arthur has submitted SB 1184. We are continuing to work to increase our funding for the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, because in 2023, the Missouri Housing Development Commission, they when they sent out their notice of funding opportunities to the nonprofits, they were like, we can allocate $3.4 million. They received requests over $10 million, and then they were able to allocate $3.5 million. And this year, the NOFO is showing $4 million allocation, and they've already received over $1 million in requests for 2024. And the funding for that, the recording deed fee, that is $3, has not changed since the Housing Trust Fund was established. And so what this bill, SB 1184, seeks to do is to increase the recording deed fee from $3 to $9. And that funding would help increase funding specifically towards rural affordable housing development, because a lot of times they are overlooked, but they are also experiencing rents that they cannot afford, shortages of housing, and they just don't have the resources. And then also this bill wants to annually adjust this increased fee amount to stay aligned with inflation. And that was me. And now it will be V.
Thanks, Misha. Hi, everyone. So we're pretty excited. The circuit breaker tax credit has been reintroduced again this year. Just a little bit of information. So Missouri's circuit breaker tax credit, it's also called the senior property tax credit. So you might be more familiar with that. It helps lots of low income seniors and individuals with disabilities stay safely housed. And the way that it does that is it allows these individuals to apply for credit based off of what they may have paid in real estate taxes or rent. And so, as you know, housing costs are going sky high. Every little bit helps, and this absolutely does that. So with the proposed changes, they're actually wanting to increase the benefit or the credit amount that could be released, as well as update the income eligibility, just because these levels have not been updated since 2008. And so what's happened is, year after year, fewer and fewer people really are able to benefit from this program. So we want to be able to update that. There are 3 bills that have been pre-filed already, 3 in the House. So you'll see here it's one through Representative Mathieson, one through Representative McGill, and then we also have Representative Terry. These bills are also going to be, well, the way that they're currently written is that they want to adjust for the credit annually. So we don't have to keep, coming back every legislative session and trying to increase it again. So we're really hopeful that this is going to get further traction this year. And then we have our next policy priority, the Missouri Fair Housing Act. So for those of you that may not be aware, Missouri's housing discrimination statutes at the state level do not meet the requirements of what the Federal Fair Housing Act requires. And so we've lost enforcement funding because of that. And of course, that means fewer resources to actually be able to address discrimination in our state. So Representative Doug Mann plans on introducing the Missouri Fair Housing Act, which would bring us back into compliance. He has not yet pre-filed the bill, but it's only the 8th. So once we see that, we'll put it in our affordable housing tracker and let you all know that it is online. And then what we're hopeful to be able to do is include source of income protection within that bill. But, currently we've only got the one sponsor. So it may be that this legislative session is more of like a time to kind of educate legislators and the community members about it. And hopefully, build the momentum needed for the 2025 legislative session. And Misha, did you want to do this part?
Yeah, and so to learn more about this or to get involved, we would love you to join us on our Affordable Housing Coalition calls. The next one is today at 2 o'clock. And then we also have our work groups, which you can learn about. And then in January and May, through the legislative session, we are going to be meeting every second and fourth Friday at 2 to 3 o'clock. And I will put my email in the chat for anyone who has questions or wants to reach out. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Misha and V. I appreciate that. Lots of you know I started doing affordable housing policy, so still really close to my heart for sure. And then finally, Empower also covers and works on a small list of other bills that interact with poverty. We have been in the cycle before as an organization because everything interacts with poverty. So narrowing that down and being more specific on the bills we're going to work on has been a growth process for us, for sure. Our executive director, Mallory Rush, is going to talk about some of those bills.
Thanks, Sarah. Hey, everyone. It's so great to see you here today. Yeah, I do just have a couple of issues I want to put on your radar, starting with protecting the initiative petition process. So if you have been with us for the last few sessions, you know that this has been an ongoing battle with the legislature. There is a rather large contingent of legislators who believe that it is too easy to amend Missouri's constitution, and so want to make some significant changes to the initiative petition process, which ironically in and of itself is embedded in Missouri's constitution. So they will need to put it in front of voters and we will make the ultimate decision. But we know that unfortunately, we currently have a Secretary of State with a documented history of writing very confusing ballot language. And we would prefer that, this not have the opportunity to be put in front of voters in a confusing manner, because we know that if it is put in front of voters in an honest and straightforward manner, that it will fail. Similar proposals have been put in front of voters in states like Arkansas and Ohio in recent months, and they have been defeated by wide margins. We know that people really believe in their ability. They want to have the opportunity to propose legislation directly to fellow citizens when legislators are not doing their jobs and putting the things forward, the proposals forward that we want to see. And so it's so important that we protect the current process. Typically over the last few years, and it looks like so far this year, the changes that are being proposed to the process fall into one of two camps. The first is working to raise the number of signatures that are required to certify an issue for the ballot. It is already a very hard thing to get enough signatures to get something on the ballot. We do not need to raise that number any further. Ask anybody who has worked on an IP campaign in the past. It is a very arduous and expensive task as it is. We do not need to get more signatures. The other pot of proposals have to do with raising the percentage of votes that are required to pass amendments to Missouri's constitution. Currently in Missouri, as in the vast majority of states, you just need a simple majority to make that decision. We've seen proposals ranging from 55% up to 65%. And if you just look historically at the ways that ballots have passed, raising it to 60 or 65% or even 55% would mean that in a world where we're really politically polarized and people have really different ideas, it's basically just blocking anything from being able to pass ever again, which is some of our legislators wish, unfortunately. So we will continue to work with a really broad coalition of organizations across the state who are fighting against this. Doing a very cursory scan this week, I found 10 bills related to IP so far. I have them listed there on the slide. Our IP tracker is live on the website as well, so you can follow our tracking of the IP bills there. So, we'll continue our work and our strategy on this and work to protect the process. We'd love to have you be involved in that. So follow along with us this session. I'm sure there will be a number of action alerts that go out related to this issue starting pretty early in session. And speaking of the initiative petition process, I will I want to shout out our colleagues over at Missouri Jobs with Justice, as well as many of our other partners who have been working on a really important ballot initiative that they are gathering signatures for right now, to increase the minimum wage in Missouri from $12 an hour to $15 an hour, and also to require employers to offer paid sick leave to their employees. So if you've not signed the petition yet, I'm sure that we are going to see lots of signature gatherers outside of grocery stores and malls and at community holiday events this season. So if you haven't signed yet, please do keep an eye out and add your name to that important cause just to get it on the ballot next fall. And I just have one more slide. Thank you. So something Empower Missouri has worked on for the last several years, along with our wonderful partners at the Missouri Family Health Council, is ensuring that folks can get access to an annual supply of birth control. This issue is also sometimes called continuous contraception. And this was great timing because if you get our newsletter, you will have seen today that this was our call to action today for you, was to sign on to a petition to work towards this continuous coverage being available in Missouri. So I just went ahead and dropped the link to the petition. If you're so inclined, please do add your name. We are excited about some of the momentum we're seeing around this issue ahead of session. We know that birth control is an incredibly important tool for families to be able to do family planning, for individuals to be able to do family planning, so that, as everyone I think knows, an unexpected child can be an enormous financial, I don't want to say burden, because children are wonderful. And when you want a child and you prepare for a child, that's great. But if you have not prepared to have a child, and don't have the financial means to do so, it is certainly one of the things that can plunge a family into poverty, or make it very difficult for a family to get out of poverty. So I do hope you'll join us in advocating for that important issue this year. There are a few other things here that I'm not going to go in depth on. These are just issues that we have worked on in the past that we will likely work on again if they are to come up for a hearing. I think many of you know that there have been lots of conversations over the last few sessions about making diapers and feminine hygiene products tax exempt. We will be working on that. We're also keeping an eye on a similar tax exemption bill for contact lenses and eyeglasses. In a similar vein, I had a really nice chat last night with Representative Joe Dahl, and she told me that she's going to be filing legislation that would require Medicare to cover hearing aids, which is a huge quality of life issue for our seniors. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. I know that's a frequent complaint that we hear, that hearing aids are really expensive and they're not currently covered for all populations under Medicare and Medicaid. We are also going to be keeping an eye on any kind of DEI related policies. As some of you will remember, last year there was a weird provision that got tossed on to our budget bills that basically said no Missouri state funds could be used for anything DEI related. It seems like there may be some folks who are going to try to work on that again, potentially through standalone legislation. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. We know that it's very, very important for people to be able to understand the history of discriminatory policies in our country and how we have gotten to a place where we have such an incredibly wide racial wealth gap in this country, as well as how we have created and really cemented a system of classes in this country based on policies that work to privilege some while really disadvantaging others. And so we feel like it's really important that those conversations happen in schools, in workplaces, with our state agencies. So we'll be fighting to make sure that those stay in place so that if we don't understand the past, we can't address things in the future. And then, of course, we're always concerned about teacher salaries. Teachers are some of the most underpaid professionals out there. Low teacher salaries are not only hurting our public education system, but they are also creating poverty for families of our teachers who are incredible public servants and deserve to be paid far more than they're being paid today. So we'll be watching that and speaking out on that as well. I'm sure that this list will grow. We have a sort of like catch-all tracker on our website where you can keep an eye on these things. And these conversations will sort of bleed into our other coalition meetings when there are issues that are coming up for debate. So thanks in advance for staying tuned in.
Excellent. We did not put a slide for questions, I'm realizing now. So we're just going to hang on Mallory's last slide. We've got a little bit of an opportunity for questions. There were a couple in the chat box. There was one about the restaurant meals program, just reaffirming that that program would be eligible only for that subset population. If you are experiencing homelessness or have a disability, something that prevents you from being able to store or prepare meals. And so those folks would need to, as part of their certification when they receive their SNAP, like identify that they're part of that, one of those populations. So it would not just be eligible for anybody, though. I think I could quickly make an argument for why it should just be eligible for anybody. And then we had another question from Jasmine asking if this was the same group that were at the Advocates Summit last month. We did have signature gatherers at our Empower Missouri Anti-Poverty Summit. And so if you were there and you signed the signature, you signed the petition, that was for paid leave and the minimum wage increase. The call to action that we sent out for the right time is different than that and is a virtual action that you can participate in right now. We are also going to send out these slides, so you'll have them, and then there's some extra information if we need to, but we will be talking about all of these bills all legislative session. And so the very best way to stay on top of what's happening with them or to help some of them get passed is to stay involved with us, with our coalitions, and make sure you're reading those Friday emails. They'll have all the information that you need to get caught up very quickly. Any other questions? I have like 2-ish minutes. Should use them. Or not.
Waste not, want not, Sarah.
Well, that's right. I mean, I'm always talking about rest. You can take 2 minutes of rest. That's it. That's the boundary. 2 minutes.
We just explained everything so well.
I mean, we have a really great staff who's very good at boiling things down into easily to understand these kind of complicated processes, for sure. Other ways to stay involved with Empower Missouri over the legislative session and beyond. Join our coalitions. You've seen when all 3 of those are meeting. You can find more information at empowermissouri.org, including our bill trackers, which are updated to whenever the last time a policy manager was able to review bills that have been filed. So generally, every few days, they are updated with the most recent information as we head into the legislative session. Empower Missouri has and offers a series of trainings. We would love to come to your organization, your neighborhood group, any spaces that you are in, and talk about legislative advocacy and its importance. We have these 3 prepared trainings: Advocacy 101, Messaging 101, and an ethics training. And so we would love to partner with you. You can email me directly if you have questions about that as well moving forward, but it's a great opportunity if you've got some professional development time, et cetera, within your organization to really just teach the basics about how to engage in advocacy. You can subscribe to our podcast, Under the Dome. We're on all the podcast streamings. We finally made it into Apple. They were very not easy. It only took 2 years. But we are officially on all of the podcast streaming services. Those are 10, 12, maybe 15-minute podcasts every week to catch you up on what's happened and what we anticipate. Share, etc. So please follow along with that podcast. It's designed to just quickly get you caught up. We'll do our week of action the week of March 4th. That's the entirety of the information we have available for you right now, but you should keep an eye out for it. We will help you get into the Capitol and interact with some lawmakers about issues we care about. You can join our organizational membership program. And if you're in Springfield, you've not missed your opportunity to meet with some lawmakers and advocates in your area on December 14th. We would love to have you register for that event, which is always a good opportunity to meet with some folks in your area. And yes, you are right. I skipped right over the please take our survey slide in my haste to talk about everything else. So please, those surveys are super short. They help us really do a good job and make sure that we're talking about the things you want us to be talking about. So please fill out that survey for us before you go today. Now it's dancing time, I guess, Mallory.
I was on mute.
There in the chat box. We're all available. Please reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We would love to answer your questions or connect with you and anybody else in your community who you think it would be beneficial for us to.
And start thinking now if you want to bring a group to join us for our day of action in the Capitol. Can't start planning too early. That's gonna be here before we know it. So put it on your calendars and plan to come have a fun day with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, Empower Missouri has a mission, or one of our visions within underneath our mission is that the lawmaking process is accessible to all. And those types of events are part of how we get there, right? We want to help you talk to your lawmakers for the first time. Sometimes those conversations can feel uncomfortable. We want to destigmatize that and make that accessible and easy for you all, because you have valuable stories and information and experiences that your lawmakers need to hear in order to do their jobs well. So it'll be a fun day. And we'll feed you. If nothing else, you're getting a meal out of it. So can't win, can't lose. Thank you all so much. We appreciate your time today.